everybody, to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 133. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and joined to my upper left corner, back from the Dominican Republic, Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
You know, it feels good to be back, especially on a big show like this one.
Joe, draft special. In my upper right corner, I got Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, or L Shooter, as Chappie calls
Chappie,
him.
baby.
Bill Shallcross, how you feeling? And also the train is joining us live. So I got a couple. I want to start the show with something funny. So normally we do a show, and then after the show, I'd listen to it back on like Spotify or like Apple Podcasts, like audio as I'm driving around. Very infrequently do I watch the show back, right? Like just watch it on like Facebook or YouTube. Well, today I was doing notes and I put the YouTube on the TV of our last show. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it really drives me nuts. Do I really like look at the sky all the time? Like I'm like constantly doing this. Like there's like writing on the teleprompter or something. Like I don't know if I'm looking into my brain, but like that's something I gotta work on. I thought it was funny, so I'd run and bring it to light and laugh at myself.
I know I do it too sometimes, so I'm guilty of it as well.
I'm constantly looking at the sky. I'm like, oh yeah, so we got this. I'm like, what am I looking at? It's just nothing up there.
Searching for the answers.
I don't have them. But we got a fun show to talk through this week. We're gonna first finish our top 5 list, pass catchers and quarterbacks. I think that'll get a little heated. Just guessing. And then we're going to get into our first round live mock draft, followed by an NBA playoff update. This is a long show, so I will not hold the intros any longer. Without further ado, here comes the top 5 pass catchers prospects in this year's NFL draft. Cottrell, why don't you start us off with yours first?
All right, sounds good. So I got my list here. So how we're doing it, we do pass catchers, we'll do receivers and tight ends added together. You'll see on my list I have 5 receivers, and it's not a slight. I actually love this year's tight end class. I just think these 5 guys at receiver can come in. Not saying the tight ends can't, but I think these 5 can come in and make an immediate impact on whatever team they get drafted to. So I'll let you guys show the tight ends some love. But, of course, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, and I like Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington is a guy who, tape-wise, numbers-wise, wasn't that great, but he is just a physical specimen. I think he can come in and be great tight end, great blocker, decent pass catcher. I think he can come in and make an impact right away as well. But I'll start off at number 5, Jalen Hyatt, receiver out of Tennessee. Jalen Hyatt's a guy who won the Biletnikoff last year. He is an absolute burner. Speed-wise, he may not have jumped off the charts how a lot were expecting him to, but Jalen Hyatt is a deep ball threat, and I love the dynamic that he could bring to a team, especially if you can get him in the second round. I think Jalen Hyatt would be a phenomenal second-round pick for anybody. Number 4 is Jordan Addison. I feel like Jordan Addison was a guy who was notoriously looked at as a guy who was going to be the number 1 receiver in this class, but he went to USC and he was still good. Don't get me wrong, but for me, it's just nothing absolutely special about Jordan Addison. He does everything good. There's just nothing like absolutely special that jumps off the tape for me. That's why I have him below the 3 guys that are ahead of him. My number 3 is Zay Flowers. I know a lot of people don't watch a lot of Boston College film, but you watch Zay Flowers, that man gets open. Against any man coverage, he gets open. And I don't want to say he's a great route runner because I don't think he's a great route runner, but whatever he does to get open, it absolutely works. The one flaw in his game is that he doesn't really sit in zone coverage well. I think in NFL, you go to a good system, they could teach you that. And that's an easy thing to kind of figure out. You know how to beat man coverage. You know how to beat press coverage. That's the important part. He has decent speed, 4.4 guy. I think Zay Flowers goes in and makes an immediate impact. My number 2 is Quentin Johnston. Big time threat. 6'4", pretty fast, 4.4 guy as well. I think, again, Quentin Johnston go in, be your number one receiver, once he really gets going. And kind of bursting on the scene this year, really got of nowhere. So got to give him a lot of love for what he did with that TCU team. He's a guy who can really make something out of nothing. So love his game. And then my number one is going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. If you watch Jackson Smith and Jigba his sophomore year, you saw how special he was. A lot of people from that team that they saw Garrett Wilson, they saw Chris Olave. Those guys themselves said Jackson Smith and Jigba was the best out of those three. So my only knock on Jackson is that he's not a fast guy. He has football speed. When you see him on the field, he catches the pass. He can take it the distance, but running a 40, he's not a 4.4, 4.5 kind of guy. So that's my only knock on him is speed. But everything else, I absolutely love Jackson's game.
So can I comment on this list, or am I next? I don't know who's next. Who's next? Oh, Bill's next. Go back then real quick. I gave NFL comps to a lot of these wide receivers, and I'll go over that when I get into my list. Zay Flowers is so unpolished, and that's one thing that I can't put him ahead of the two elite tight ends that are in this class. But I need to stop you when you have the Jordan Addison slander in your voice. It just bothers me. I'm going to just explain to you why it bothers me. And I'll get into it when I get into my guy. Hold on. Let me be Gene for a minute.
I just said that's fine. I didn't stop you.
Let me ask you a question. Coming out of college, just wondering, what was Justin Jefferson elite at?
Getting open.
Oh, so Jordan Addison's not elite at getting open? Because you just said he's not elite at anything.
I don't think he's an elite route runner, personally.
Why?
Elite?
Two separate quarterbacks threw him over 15 touchdowns.
Two guys who were going to – well, one was going to be the number one pick next year, and another guy who was a first-round pick last year.
So because he has a good quarterback, he gets punted.
That's not what I said.
Walks into a system in June.
Are you comparing Justin Jefferson to Jordan Addison?
Yes, I am. It's exactly what I'm doing.
That's your prerogative, not mine.
It's my prerogative, and I'm going to be very clear when I say that. I'll get into my list, and I'll get a little further into Jordan Addison when we get into my list. But I guess we go to Bill next. Cottrell put the rose in between two thorns. He wanted to make sure that the arguments weren't too much, so he kind of spaced this out. But I'm all right with that.
All right. So on my list, you're going to see some of the names that, Cottrell just went over. You're going to see two new names as well. And, this is no slight to Jalen Hyatt or Quentin Johnson. I think they're both going to be very good pros. I think they both have the ability to be number ones in time. I think they're both speedsters that need a lot of work in route running, in route development, things of that nature. I think they have a ton of potential. The NFL is just not a league where you're going to run by somebody off the line of scrimmage every play. So I think they have high ceilings. Just didn't quite make my list. I'm going to start with number 5, which is Zay Flowers. Gene just touched on one thing for me. That is very important in my assessment of him. I think he has the best overall just speed out of any of the wide receivers in this draft. His separation that he gets away from corners and safeties is incredible. He does need to work on his route running a little bit. And Gene, like Gene said, he's not very polished yet. That's no slight on Boston College per se. But again, when he gets to the pros, like they're going to clean all that stuff up. I think Zay Flowers has star potential. I think if he goes to the right team, he's going to play out of the slot. If he goes to a team with a good quarterback and get him the ball over the middle, like you guys have both said already, he just gets open. And if he gets open and he has a step on you, you're not going to catch him. So I think Zay Flowers has the ability to absolutely be a star in the NFL. I have him number 5, and I have him on this list over Quentin Johnson and Jalen Hyatt because I think his ceiling is a little bit higher, if I'm being quite honest. Number 4, I have Michael Mayer, Notre Dame, baby Gronk. And that's kind of what he projects to be. He's probably maybe a little bit of a better blocker than Gronk is. He's the best overall polished tight end in this class. He's a very good blocker. Doesn't have quite the speed or the athleticism to maybe burn you constantly down the seam in the NFL. But he runs very good routes for a big guy. Has very good hands. Only had 5 drops in 2.5 years at Notre Dame. And if you're familiar with their quarterback situation in a couple of years, it says a lot about him. If he goes to a team that runs a very pro style offense, he's going to be a stud. You can use him in so many ways. He's going to be a great red zone target. Again, very high ceiling for a very smart, athletic kid. Number 3, I got Jordan Addison from USC. This is where I'm going to disagree with Cottrell and agree with Gene a little bit. I think Jordan Addison is a very, very good route runner. It's one of his strengths, obviously. I think he needs to work on his deep game a little bit. Not going to punish him for the quarterbacks that he play with because he's going to the NFL. He's going to probably play with somebody who's better than he just came off the field with. So I think Jordan Addison is maybe the most solid, sure thing in this draft out of all these receivers. I like his game. He did it at Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett, went to USC with Caleb Williams, didn't miss a step, went into a whole new program, whole new system, succeeded. Guy can run any route, not afraid to go over the middle. Kind of deceptive speed, very good hands. Again, I think he's a very solid pick for anybody in the first round tomorrow night. Number 2, I have Dalton Kincaid. Not going to comment on his appearance that has been done in the comments, but I'll say that maybe I don't necessarily disagree. Dalton Kincaid, very athletic tight end. Not quite the size of a Travis Kelce. I think whoever drafts him is going to use him similarly to Kansas City, the way Kansas City uses Travis Kelce. He's a guy that can go down the middle very hard. He's got enough size and speed that's very hard for safeties to cover him. You can split him out as well. You don't have to have him come off the line of scrimmage. Very athletic tight end, very good hands, tough kid too, which I love. Went to Utah, had to fight for everything out there. I think whoever gets him is getting a gem. I think the kid's going to be very successful at the next level. He will definitely get his name called tomorrow night and probably earlier than later. Number 1, I know this is going to be a contentious point here in a couple minutes. I'm putting him here based upon what he did 2 years ago. You look at his film back then. I know some detractors will say, he had a great year because nobody was paying attention to him because they did have Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I don't really buy into that because all you have to do is watch the Rose Bowl game when neither one of those guys were on the field. I think he's very talented. I think he's gifted. I'm not going to say I'm going to doubt his toughness per se, but it's a little bit of a flag from somebody to miss their entire year, pre-draft year on a soft tissue injury. That's a little bit. It's the only knock on Smith and Jigba I will give. I think he's going to project as a slot guy in the NFL. Very good route runner, good hands. I do agree with Cottrell. I don't think he necessarily has fast test speed per se. Another guy, if he gets behind you, you're probably not going to catch him. He has football speed. So he's number 1 kind of by default. Me and Gene talked about this last night, and I think maybe as a group, this class is very good. I don't think this class quite has the elite players that last year's did with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and all those guys that went early last year. But overall, I think it's a very good group. I think anywhere from 1 through 8 or 9, you're getting a good player. Just don't know maybe if you're getting an absolute superstar. But that's my list. Travis.
Let me talk about my list before I talk about who's not on my list. I give a NFL comp for a lot of these guys. The only one I couldn't figure a good NFL comp out for was Jalen Hyatt. I'll rely on you guys in the comments to give me a good NFL comp. I don't know. I love him. I just don't know what he compares to. But Michael Mayer, to me, looks like a poor man's Gronkowski. The guy is huge, jump ball, 50-50 balls. He is polished. He can run routes. He can block. He does everything right. He's the most pro-ready guy in the system. I think that Michael Mayer reminds me of a baby Gronkowski. Gronkowski 0.5. Dalton Kincaid reminds me a lot of, you said Travis Kelce. I look at him a lot more like George Kittle. I think he is rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, good pass catcher, emotional leader on the Utah team, can block, does everything right. He's special. I think he's a shade ahead of Michael Mayer because he's a quicker guy. He's faster. He's going to be better in open field. He'll be able to run away from blockers. I think Michael Mayer will be a better red zone presence. I don't know why Jalen Hyatt is so low on a lot of these lists. Not on your list, but like on list for ESPN or list for mock drafts. Like, I thought the kid was incredible with Hendon Hooker. I loved what he did, and he just seemed to get open. And he got open versus one of the best secondaries in football when he went up against Alabama and absolutely torched him. Love the kid. Big fan. Don't have a great – DJ Moore is a good answer there. Matt Collins is a joke, I guess, because you're just talking about his haircut. But I love me some Jalen Hyatt. I have him number 3. Quentin Johnson reminds me of a faster version of Alshon Jeffrey. He's a quicker version, 6'4", like goes up for the jump balls. I remember I said on a show maybe 5 months ago, and I'm like, oh, TCU doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver. And then you guys politely corrected me immediately and said, yes, they do. And I watched a lot more of Quentin Johnson, and man, he is really special. He's quick, he's big, he's athletic, he's strong, he catches jump balls, and it just reminds me a lot of watching a better version of Alshon Jeffrey. The best receiver in this class, to me, is Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison went from a Pitt squad that threw him the ball and everybody knew it was coming to him, to a USC squad that was loaded with talent, in which Caleb Williams spread the ball all across the field. Yes, his yardage took a dip, but he was still dominant. He still was not stopped. I think that the USC offense was a lot more open than the Pitt offense was. In Pitt, he's the number 1 bar none option. In USC, there's 3 options, 4 options that you can throw the football to. You can run the football. Lincoln Riley's system is designed for people to get open. And in the Pac-12, you got a lot better coaching, a lot better defenses that can shade and double team Jordan Addison. But he still had a very, very good year. So Jordan Addison, to me, reminds me of a poor man's Justin Jefferson. And a poor man's best receiver in football would be the best receiver in this class. In my personal opinion, I think this is a very weak wide receiver class as a whole. I think the tight ends are elite. I think you have 2 of them that are great. Darnell Washington could be very good. The guy's like 6'8". He's incredibly sized. But with these 3, I think all 3 of these wide receivers can be elite at the next level in the NFL. Now I got to take a second to talk about who's not on my list. You guys ever watched The Wizard of Oz? Anybody watched The Wizard of Oz before, right? There's a cowardly lion that just doesn't have the heart to get on the field. And that's not who I want on my football team. Jackson Smith and Jigba is, in my opinion, 2nd or 3rd as far as talent-wise. But for you to sit your entire year due to a soft tissue injury, came back, kind of tweaked it. And also, this is one thing that doesn't get brought up very often. Jackson Smith and Jigba hasn't been the best receiver on his team since high school. If we're being honest with each other. I don't trust him. And you guys got to I thought his name was Kevin Smith. It's not Kevin Smith. Who was the wide receiver the Bears took at number 6 overall about 10 years ago that was injured his entire career? Kevin White. Kevin White. You could run into another Kevin White with this guy. Oh, my shin hurts. I'm not playing this year. Just sit me out. I hate players like that. That team played for that could have played for a national championship if he shows up. They were 1 field goal kick away from playing for the national championship. They were my pick to go to the national championship. Didn't play. Hamstring. September. Listen, you can defend them all you want, but the number 1 thing I look for in a prospect is heart. And you can't say he didn't get paid. Oh, he wasn't getting paid. He's just protecting the assets. He was getting paid. NIL paid him very handsomely. So what was the excuse? Why did he not step back on the field? That's the reason he's not on my list. Not talent-wise. Talent-wise, he's 2 or 3. I think he's only behind Addison. Talent-wise. I'm not mad. I'm always happy. Bijan Robinson. You talking about Bijan? He's a running back, Travis. I guess I'm getting no comments back on Jordan Addison. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I guess we'll move on to quarterbacks.
I mean, it's
Control
just,
heated.
No, not heated. I mean, it's just, I can't keep beating a dead horse. You're going to make your point. I'll make my point. He came back twice, tweaked it both games that he came back, and didn't play the rest of the season. It's not like he just got hurt in September and never saw the field again.
Jury, that is correct, Jury. He suffered a hamstring injury in September. He tweaked it in November and didn't play
again. Twice. Played in October and November.
Baby tweaked it. Didn't play in January.
I guess.
Sorry, soft to me. Oh, I get to go first with quarterbacks. This is nice. Another name missing. Another name missing on the list. My number 5 is Will Levis. And the reason I have him 5 is because I don't think there's 5 quarterbacks in this prospect list that are better than Jay Cutler. Will Levis is Jay Cutler. If you've watched Jay Cutler play football, he was a decent pro between 11 to 20. If you want Jared Goff, you can get Jared Goff. This is what Will Levis is. He's never going to win NFL Super Bowl. He's not Justin Herbert. Stop trying to recreate, well, he looks decent on tape or it's the receiver's fault and he's got this great arm. Guys, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Why is he being discussed at being taken number 1 overall? That's an absolute joke. He's my number 5. For number 4, I have a high upside guy in Jaren Hall. A lot of people don't know about Jaren Hall of BYU, not Yale. Come on, brother. Jaren Hall, listen, I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. That's the worst comp I can give him, but he's got a baby Patrick Mahomes in him. He's got a nice arm. He's mobile. He's an accurate quarterback. He can throw the deep ball. He can use his legs. I'm a Jaren Hall guy. I think Jaren Hall can be a starter in the NFL. But once again, once you hear my NFL comps for 3, 2, and 1, you might understand a little bit better of what I think of this class. I think there's 3 quarterbacks in this class that can be pros and good pros. And they're the 3 I have. Number 3 is Hendon Hooker. A lot of guys watch NFL football, so I will give you an NFL comp. Hendon Hooker reminds me of a better version of Tyrod Taylor. Nothing against Tyrod, but it just looks the same. He throws a nice, clean dart of a football. He can use his legs. He's athletic. And if he didn't have the ACL injury, I think you'd be arguing Hendon Hooker over Levis and Anthony Richardson in a lot of these mock drafts. The ACL injury really set him back, and teams, have to help him with his rehab. But Hendon Hooker looked better. Just put stats up next to each other. They played in the same conference. Him and Will Levis, just put them up next to each other, side by side. I'm not saying that Will Levis has to put the same numbers Hendon Hooker put up, but what I am saying is you can't, 38-6 versus 20-12. That's not, okay, Jalen Hyatt might have made him look a little better. But stop the Will Levis trash. The guy's not that good. He's Jay Cutler. CJ Stroud, it's a tale of 2 stories for me. Every big game that this man played in before New Year's Eve, he just came up small. Michigan, Notre Dame. When there was a big game, CJ Stroud just did not make the plays. And then New Year's Eve happened. And New Year's Eve, I watched a version of CJ Stroud that I think could be the best quarterback on this list. I apologized in the chat. I made a post about it. He looked elite to me. He looked great. Now, I don't know how much of that was Ryan Day having a month to plan. I don't know how much of that was Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely cooking Keely Ringo. But, man, CJ Stroud looked – when you give him a system – and you say, throw the football here, he can do that. Here's where I'm worried about CJ Stroud. And if you've seen the video that I posted earlier, I got to bring it up. Guy scored an 18 on the S2s. Like, that is terrible. And then, if I was him, I'd keep my mouth shut. Or, I don't know how you go out. I'm just not a good test taker. You mean you're not smart? You struggle with the point where they tell you, where we find out what you know? Because CJ Stroud, he was arguably, because he's got the stature. He's taller than Bryce Young. His arm looks better than Bryce Young. But when you look at Bryce Young, you look at a superstar. You look at a guy, and I'll point to you one game, just one game I want to bring up that Bryce Young just made me look like an absolute fool. SEC championship game, 2021-2022 season. They played against the best defense I think I've ever watched in college football. That Georgia Bulldogs defense was incredible, but Bryce Young was every bit up to the task. And if you watch his tape, when he had Jamison Williams and when he had John Mechie on the field, he looked like he was surgical. That ball he threw to Jamison Williams to start the second half of that SEC championship game, on the run to his right, dot, right over the shoulder, 65 yards to the house. Is Bryce Young's size concerning, you ask? Well, it is. But Kyler Murray has the same, very similar stature, and he can be successful in the NFL. So you know what I compare Bryce Young to? I compare him to a more knowledgeable, better teammate, guy that's going to watch film, K1. So my NFL comp for Bryce Young is the better version of Kyler Murray. He's a superstar. In that same test that CJ Stroud scored an 18, Mr. Bryce Young scored a 98. Top of the class versus bottom of the class. And that's the big difference when you're looking at a quarterback to dissect your defense and understand what NFL defenses are doing. A lot of people comp him to Drew Brees. I want you to think about that. I love that comp as a whole, but if you have an athletic version of the most accurate quarterback you've ever seen, he's going to be a superstar. Last year, when we talked after the national championship, I said the first two picks in the NFL draft would be Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. this year. My foreshadowing is going to be correct. That's my 5. A little long-winded there. Sorry, fellas.
All right, so I'll follow up Gene. My number 5 is Will Levis. Gene hit a lot of the Will Levis slander right on the head for me. I think Will Levis's upside is just way too high for me to not have him on this list, because there's a chance that, with all the arm talent that he has, that he develops into a really good NFL quarterback. I personally don't see it. I've been down this road before. If you've seen any of my tweets or just any comparison for Will Levis, I've been calling Will Levis Midwest Sam Darnold for the past year. I think coming out of college, a lot of the same stuff was being said about Sam. Great arm. He trusts his arm more than he should. Questionable turnovers, things like that. All that while he was at USC. I think that's the perfect marriage for Will Levis. I think it's Sam Darnold and Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler, because I think he can be a gunslinger. I think when he gets it going, he can be a guy who goes out and wins you games, but I think he's going to lose you games more often than he wins them. So that's why he's coming in at number 5 for me. Number 4 is Anthony Richardson, another prospect. If you watch this film, absolutely nothing, he does absolutely nothing spectacular at the quarterback position. Dude's a freak athlete, though. You're seeing his numbers at the combine, a guy that can run a 4.4, guy that can jump 40-inch vertical. I just feel like at some point he's going to go to a good system. Hopefully he goes to a good system and they utilize his best skill sets. Anthony Richardson is not a great passer of the football. I think, I know Gene has made this comparison in the past. His ceiling being Jalen Hurts, what Jalen Hurts was last year. I think that's honestly a great comparison, just because I think Anthony Richardson is a guy who it's going to take him a while to figure it out. I know some Eagles fans were starting to get off of the Jalen Hurts train before this past season. So I think Anthony Richardson going to the right situation can be an athlete for a team, and you could see him be somewhat successful. Wouldn't be my franchise guy though. Top three.
Before you go three, I didn't get a chance to give Anthony Richardson my NFL comp.
Okay.
Can I do it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I think Anthony Richardson is a more athletic version of Taysom Hill. That is where I have. I'm kidding.
The funny thing is that I can't disagree. Like I said, Anthony Richardson doesn't throw the ball well, but I think when you're a freak athlete like that, your upside is, if you just watched his film and you didn't know what his combine numbers were, you'd be like, oh, this guy's a day 3 pick.
Yeah, that's my point. And I think he's a more athletic Taysom Hill. I really believe that. I look at him. Anthony Richardson could be what the Eagles thought Jalen Hurts was going to be, in like a wildcat type system with like a secondary quarterback that comes in, and that's what he could be. He could be a gadget guy that you use. I think he's a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick in the right system.
Yep. And that's really what I'm projecting there. The top 3 guys, again, I 100% agree with Gene. I think these 3 go into the right situation. These 3 can be franchise guys. Number 3, Hendon Hooker. I hate piggybacking off of Gene, but again, I think he said it perfectly. His torn ACL is a reason why he's not looked at a higher range than where he's at right now. Hendon Hooker showed you everything that you needed to see at Tennessee. Guy who really came on the scene, really got of nowhere. Talk about his receiving core all you want to, but you still got to get those guys the ball. And against that Alabama team in that game, he essentially put the team on his back. He had a will to win, and that Tennessee team was special this year. So I think Hendon Hooker can go in, be a great leader for a team, and as long as he comes back healthy, hopefully he goes to a situation where they don't try to rush him back. But I think Hendon Hooker can be a special franchise guy. My number 2 and my number 1, in reality, they're interchangeable. But I've said it pretty much all year. I take CJ Stroud and I take Caleb Williams over Bryce Young. Big reason, size is the big thing for me. Bryce Young is an incredible competitor, and that's really the one reason why I say it's interchangeable, because Bryce Young is always stepping up to the moment. I've criticized Bryce Young in the past before. You look at games like Auburn where there's, 14-10, you look at games like LSU and it's, 14-14, things like that. But when the moment gets big, or even the Texas game, Bama was struggling pretty much the entire game. Alabama needs a score to go win the game. Bryce Young takes him down the field and he just goes to do that. So the competitor in Bryce Young it's unmatched. All his talent is also unmatched. Great athlete, great accuracy. But the size thing does concern me. I think, we talked about Drew Brees and we talked about Kyler Murray. These shorter quarterbacks, they look great sometimes in spurts, but then you still have your question marks afterwards. I don't think Bryce Young's that. I think Bryce Young is going to be, of the short quarterbacks in the league, I think he's honestly going to be the best one. But question does concern me. And then with CJ Stroud, again, Gene kind of hit on it. The big games happen. I don't think it's that he doesn't show up. I think he gets a little bit more flack than he should for the Michigan game this past season. I thought he played fine. But the Notre Dame game is 100% one of those games where you're like, hey, CJ, what's going on? The Oregon game last year, I think that's another one of those games where numbers wise, he looked fine. But if you actually watch the film, it's like, hey, you need to make these plays because we need to win this football game. You give me the S2 test and all that. I guarantee no one here knows what score Patrick Mahomes had, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Those numbers don't matter. I don't care about any of
I
that
know that
stuff.
no one that scored below a 70 ever made an All-Pro.
Those numbers don't matter to me. If you could play football, you could play football. Just like the Wonderlic test doesn't matter. We don't keep up with those. It's just pre-draft things that gets put out there that I could care less about. So show me game film. I don't care about an S2 test.
I get that you don't care about that, but do you have anything to say that no one that scored below a 70 on the test has ever been an All-Pro?
I mean, how many guys have not taken that test and been an All-Pro, though?
That's fair. That's fair. That's a fair response. I'm okay with that. I wish CJ wouldn't have took the test.
I mean, of course. Now, I mean, I think going.
Bro, you know how bad an 18 is?
I think moving on in the future, you're going to have so many players not take that test now.
Bro, I've not played in football in the NFL or college football, and I promise you put the S2 test in front of me, I'll score above an 18.
I don't think 18 is. Look, I'm not defending the 18. I'm just saying that test as a whole, I could care less about.
Control. Let me ask you one more question about CJ Stroud. Do you put anything into the fact that the one monster game he had versus a really good defense came with a month of prep?
Yes and no. I say that because if you know me and like how I talked about Ohio State's offense, I don't think Ryan Day ever really let CJ Stroud just open up the offense.
You're
that
right.
Georgia game,
you said that for
Georgia game, I thought Ryan Day was just like, hey, CJ, no training wheels. You know, we want our best guys to go out there and make plays. Marvin's going to be on an island by himself. We want him to beat his coverage. Emeka is going to be on his island on his side. We want him to beat coverage, and you're just going to put the ball on the money. We're not even going to try and incorporate the run just because we know how dominant we could be in the pass game, even against this Georgia defense.
I still had him too, just to be clear. I still think he's legit. I just think there's never going to be a list where there's a debatable Ohio State guy to go number one that you will not have an Ohio State guy number one. It's never going to happen.
Unless they get on my bad list. It's going to be tough, man.
All right, let's see Showers. Then we got to move into our mock draft.
All right, so a lot of what I'm going to say is probably stuff you've already heard for the most part. It's the only sucky part about going last behind two people that know what they're talking about. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Same.
Anthony Richardson, I'm going to go number 5. The simple word to put this as is he's a project. You can sugarcoat it. You can give me his high jump and his 40 and everything you want. Doesn't necessarily make you a good quarterback in the NFL. You read some of the scouting reports from that were coming out of the pre-combine stuff, and reports coming out from anonymous GMs, and I am the first person in the world to hate the anonymous stuff, but nobody's going to put their name next to the trash in a kid. But you read some of them and they're concerning. It's they're not even concerning about so much about his accuracy or his footwork, because that stuff can all be cleaned up. It's more he drops back and it's very evident. He doesn't know what he's looking at right away. He doesn't know if it's a zone. He doesn't know if it's a man, and that all complicates the factor and factors into him being inaccurate with the ball. Does the kid have the physical gifts to be a quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely. He absolutely does. If you look at him, if you watch any of the videos, it's very evident what he's capable of doing. Is he ever going to make that step and become a competent, quarterback that's safe with the ball and, does all the things you want a potential top 5 pick to do? I don't know. I know we've thrown Jalen Hurts around, name on the show with his year last year. This could be what Anthony Richardson is. I think that's disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. I think there's just as good a shot that we never see a year like that out of Anthony Richardson as we do. I'm not sold on it.
It was his absolute ceiling.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a better chance than not that we never see that.
I agree. That absolute ceiling is something you really never do see.
I think I think him, the hype around him is actually going to hurt him. I think he would have been better off being drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Completely agree.
And given that leeway to have a year or two to really, work on his craft, work on his accuracy, work on his footwork, work on the mental side of being a quarterback in the NFL, and grow into that role and take over a team. This kid's going to get drafted in the top 10 most likely tomorrow, top 15, somewhere in there, and the pressure is going to be automatic and it's going to be instantaneous. I don't think that helps Anthony Richardson at all. I don't. I have him
No,
number
it's
5.
funny. Malik Willis is going to be in the XFL next year.
Yeah.
He's done. And he's
Yeah.
writing them off. It's not a joke. Like
No,
some of these guys these combine warriors that get overhyped. And even he was drafted in the 3rd round. The point being is, I guess it will buy him 2 years, but it's just as easy to say Anthony Richardson will be in the XFL in 3 years. I think the floor is the XFL. That's not a joke. I don't mean that to be mean to Anthony Richardson. I don't think he'll be a top 30 quarterback ever.
Number 4, I'm going to go with, Hendon Hooker for Tennessee, another guy that a lot of people fell in love with last year. It was kind of the, sentimental favorite there, especially after they beat Alabama in that game. And, unfortunately, had the terrible ACL injury a couple weeks after that. I think Hendon Hooker has the potential to be the steal in this draft. He has a very underrated arm. He has a great arm. He's very mobile. Assuming he comes back healthy and the knee's fine. He's a big kid. He's athletic. I think he's going to have to work on his progressions a little bit as well. I think he got away with a little bit last year. All else fails, throw the ball in the end zone to Jalen Hyatt, and it worked out a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't necessarily fly in the NFL every week. So I love Hendon Hooker. Again, I think he has the chance to be the steal of this draft in the quarterback class. And I say that before I talk about Will Levis, because I think Bryce and CJ are kind of more the sure things. I think what you're getting with those two versus Hendon Hooker could be drafted late 1st round, maybe even early 2nd. There's all kinds of projections all over the place where he's going to go. And I think he's the guy that could exceed expectations very easily. I'd be very curious to see where he goes. And I think if he works on the mental side of football and being a quarterback in the NFL, I think he has all the physical tools to be successful. I just trust Hendon Hooker way more than I trust Anthony Richardson. Number 3 for me, I have Will Levis from Kentucky. He's become the polarizing prospect in this draft. Everybody's got Bryce and CJ at top. Some people have Will Levis. I'm seeing Will Levis 2nd now. I've seen Will Levis 7th. He's all over the place. I think it depends on what you value. I said Jay Cutler on the show about a month ago, and Gene guessed it before I even said it. And the only difference is, again, I think Jay Cutler coming out of Vanderbilt was a cocky kid that was going to, he ended up not being coachable. I don't see that in Will Levis. I'm not saying he couldn't end up being that way. Arm talent wise, I think we've nailed it right on the head. That's what he is. I think the difference with Will Levis is, again, you read some of the scouting reports. It's not that he's not seeing what he should see. It's he just trusts his arms too much, or he tries to fit the ball in too tight of a window and throws bad interceptions. I believe if he's coachable, you can coach that out of him. If you do that, I think he's a very, very good NFL quarterback. I think he's way better than Jay Cutler then. That's the big question mark. That's the big unknown. I think with his physical gifts, I think he's a tough kid. He's a big kid. He's athletic. I think he has the ability to be very, very good in the NFL. I think he has the ability to be the bottom end of a top 10 quarterback. That's his ceiling, in my opinion. Number 2, I have CJ Stroud. I think he is the best complete, maybe passer to all 3 levels of the field. He's very accurate. The S2 test is however you want to. Yeah, I mean, you cannot believe in it. You can believe in it. You put too much stock into it, not enough. It's some kind of red flag. I don't know what it is yet. I mean, me and Gene talked about it briefly yesterday. It's not a foolproof test by any means. The one glaring thing they said about it is there's guys that test it well, that didn't necessarily become elite, but there's nobody that's tested poorly that's outperformed the test or become good. I think that's the alarming part. Like Cottrell said, I have no idea how many of the people in the previous, I think it's been around since 2015, they said. I don't know how many people since 2015 have taken it.
I pulled it up. Josh Allen was at 92. Patrick Mahomes at 94.
Okay. Well, that's, I guess that's more of a flag. That being said, though, I think CJ Stroud's biggest, I want to say hurdle, the biggest thing I think he has to work on, he's going to have to work on probably not, playing 98% of the game out of shotgun. He's going to function a little bit more in a pro system. I think he's very accurate. I think Gene hit it right on the head as well. I think if you develop an offense for him where he's very comfortable within that game plan and it's very simple. You're going to drop back. You're going to throw the ball here to this guy, here to that guy. I think C.J. Stroud has all the ability in the world to be a very, very, very good NFL quarterback. I think he has to trust his legs a little bit more and trust his athleticism a little bit more, which you saw in the Georgia game. I think if you go back and watch the Michigan game from this year, he was very hesitant to run, and I think there was a couple opportunities he could have run and got first downs and possibly changed the outcome of that game, and he didn't. I think he's got to trust himself and be a little bit more confident in his physical gifts besides just his arm, and and not be afraid to use his entire repertoire to help his football team. I have him number 2, and it's only because Bryce Young's in this class. You guys hit on the game from last year against Georgia. I think the other game you have to watch is just watch the last 2 minutes of the Alabama-Texas game this year. Alabama had no business winning that football game, and the only reason they won that football game is because of Bryce Young. He's as polished as it gets. You can give me the size thing is a little concerning, yeah. But like Gene said, if you're going to compare him to Kyler or Drew Brees, he's way more Drew Brees than he is Kyler Murray. He is super smart. He is quick. He is accurate. He is polished. His footwork is impeccable in the pocket, outside the pocket. His eyes are always downfield. He has such a great feel for the quarterback position. I think he's the most sure thing in this draft, and that is no slight on C.J. Stroud at all, because I think he's going to be a very good pro. There's just nothing you could point to me or show me on film that would make me come off as Bryce Young as the best quarterback in this draft. So he's number 1 for me.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, there's a perfect landing spot for C.J. Stroud in this draft. Perfect. And it's in Indy with Shane Steichen. That's where he should land. If he lands there and Indy pulls that off, it'll be perfect for CJ. It'll be perfect for Steichen. I think that's a perfect landing spot for him. I really believe that. But we'll see. We ready for the mock draft? Are y'all ready for the mock draft?
I'm on the clock, baby.
Godfrey asked the question.
What's the question?
I want to look it up. He said, how did Justin Fields score on the S2?
That's a good question. Did he take it? I just feel like his name would have popped up by now if he took it.
Hold on.
I mean, they're basically saying that the S2 is replacing the Wonderlic.
Yes. Justin Fields scored in the top 1% of the Wonderlic. He didn't take the S2.
The S2 is more...
sake, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen each scored a 108. Fields scored a 130 in the Wonderlic.
Peyton scored a 28 on the Wonderlic.
Peyton Manning?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, listen, he's going to have the chance to prove it wrong. So I mean, I don't think there's any doubt he's not going to have it be 4, number 2, 8, wherever the hell he's going to fall in the top 10 somewhere.
Even knowing the information that I know, I still had him as my second best quarterback.
Yeah, he's number 2 for me.
If you're not Cottrell or Ohio State fan, Bryce Young's the best quarterback coming out this year. He just is. All right, this is the time it gets fun. This is our mock draft. This is the mock draft. And just to remind the listeners at home, this is if we were the GM of the team. So our mock draft is not a real mock draft for the NFL. It'll get close, but it's not a mock draft. It's our draft as if we were the GM for these teams. Now, here's the problem, right? And this is the thing that Bill, I don't know how he does this. He's just a schemer. He pulls the numbers out. He gets the Eagles, he gets the Panthers, he gets the Colts. It is literally the 3 easiest picks of the whole damn draft.
What did you say the 3 easy ones were?
Panthers, Colts, Eagles.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to take number 4 you think I'm going to take. So
you should. And if you don't, you're making a mistake. Shane Steichen needs a great whatever. He might not be there. You never know. Cottrell might surprise us and dump Kyler Murray. Just get him out of there. But guys, I'm excited about this draft. We've done a lot of homework. One of the most annoying parts of draft week is listening to Philadelphia Eagles radio,
Ugh.
94 WIP, and listening to all these draft experts that don't even know who these guys are. I heard Ike. Listen, I love Ike Reese. I don't want to bash Ike Reese. He didn't even know how to pronounce Jackson Smith and Jigba's name. He had no idea. He doesn't know who he is. How are you? Oh, could get Njibba. I said, wait, what? What did you just say? She's like, yeah, Njibba Smith. I swear to God, on 94 WIP. This is what this man said. All right. With the first pick is Shally. I have the second. Cottrell has the third. And we will continue to run down that. Now, the one complaint I have in this draft is the Browns don't have a pick, and Cottrell gets to pick the Eagles' second pick, which I don't think that's fair. But I don't get an Eagles pick. I just want to be clear. I get cheated again.
You had the Eagles pick last year.
I got the second Eagles pick. I didn't get the first one. And I drafted a player the Eagles got. Just got him in the third round. All right. So without further ado, the Panthers are
Bill, is the pick in?
The pick is in. It's a no-brainer, boys. With the first pick in the 2023 draft, Carolina Panthers taking Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama. We just got done talking about him. Great start to Frank Reich's reign in Carolina. He's going to have the quarterback he wants. He's going to start rebuilding that team. They couldn't pick a better kid and a better play to do it. So Bryce Young off the board.
Well, the Houston Texans are elated. They knew exactly who they wanted it to. They know they're not getting Bryce Young, and the pick is in. With the number 2 pick, the Houston Texans select Will Anderson Jr. You want to talk about future Hall of Famer? This is the best player in the draft. Alabama's Will Anderson Jr., outside linebacker in a 3-4 or edge rusher in a 4-3 will make any defense better. And DeMeco Ryans' system is perfect for Will Anderson Jr.
All right, so Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and the pick is in. Number 3, Arizona Cardinals select player who we think is the best defensive player in this year's draft class, and that's Jalen Carter out of Georgia.
The Eagles were hoping he would fall to 10, but apparently in this draft, there's no chance.
I think with the Cardinals, that pick is going to be real interesting tomorrow night. I think there's a high probability that the Cardinals trade out of that pick, move down just a little bit. I think someone tries to go up and get their quarterback, but I think you get the best player available there, and I think that's Jalen Cardinal, and he's a good fit for that Cardinals team.
Okay. Shally, you're on the clock again.
The Colts pick is in. It's going to be the first shakeup of the draft. Number 4 pick, the 2023 draft. Indianapolis Colts are going to get their quarterback. Indianapolis Colts select Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky.
So if you're the Colts, you're selecting Will Levis over CJ Stroud.
They love him.
It's not what we're doing here.
I think he fits that system better.
Oh. What are we doing?
I mean,
all right. So with the Seattle Seahawks pick, this is a tough pick for me. I look at what they have, what they need. They have 2 picks in the first round. I'm just hoping that whoever has pick 20, that could be me also. I don't know. I'm really bad at math, but whoever has pick 20 does what I think they should do to make this make sense. But the pick is in for number 5. With the 5th pick in the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech.
You do have 20.
Oh, see, I'm good. They can do what I want them to do at 20. I'm happy. I will make the decision for them. A little bit of a reach, maybe. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, he's another polarizing guy. He's all over the board.
All right, so number 6 pick for Detroit Lions is in. And with that pick, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. Detroit Lions just traded Jeff Okudah over to the Falcons. I think they're looking for a guy to go over there and be their number 1 corner. And I think they get their guy.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a very good pick, Control.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. My GM cap.
The Raiders GM is very unhappy right now.
The Raiders GM was hoping for Devin Witherspoon.
He was.
Hey, listen, there's another one there, brother. You can go right down that list. He's not as good as Devin, but he's there. He's rated higher some things. PFF has him rated higher.
There's 2 guys I could go with there, or I could switch gears. We'll see what happens, but we will. The pick is in. I'm ready to make my pick. So with the number 7th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders, after Detroit stole my other guy, they're going to still get their corner and get their man. They're going to select Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon.
And this is the Atlanta Falcons war room. They're going nuts. It's like watching the Vikings war room when Justin Jefferson was still there. The Atlanta Falcons pick is in. They didn't even let it get to the 9-minute mark. They just went boom. With the 8th pick in the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast draft, the Atlanta Falcons finally get their quarterback, and they take C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State University.
And the crowd goes wild.
But like that would be, dude, if he falls to 8 and they can get a chance to get out of that awful Desmond Ridder pick, that's what you do.
Facts.
100%.
Facts. All right, so Chicago Bears are on the clock, and the pick is in.
Pick of the draft. Easiest pick of the draft.
With the 9th pick, Wire2Wire draft, Chicago Bears decide to protect Justin Fields' blindside with a tackle that he is already familiar with, and that is Paris Johnson Jr. out of the Ohio State University.
You knew he was going to throw the Ohio State guy in there. It's okay. As long as you're protecting Justin Fields, I don't care what you do there.
Just look out for the weeks they play Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson, because we know how that worked out last time.
Okay, well, you're up on the clock.
All right. Eagles pick is in. Me and Gene have... Oh, man. This is going to be a rough one. After much deliberation, in reality, if we could trade, I would trade back right now. But that being said, we have to make picks here on Wire2Wire. So with the 10th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Nolan Smith out of Georgia.
I love it. I love the pick. I'm good with it. The guy is a stud. We need edge rushers. And the Tennessee Titans, Tennessee's not going to like this pick, but it's the right pick for Tennessee. And the pick is in at 11. With the 11th pick, the Tennessee Titans do not like any quarterbacks on the board. They're not going to reach on a wide receiver. They know they're not going to be good this year. And they draft a 7 to 10 year pro starter in Northwestern tackle / guard, Peter Skoronski. Now, I need Cottrell not to screw this up, because I did 2 with the option of what I wanted to do at 12. And it's there.
No, I'm not gonna screw this up for you. With the starting off, the pick is in. The 12th pick, wire to wire fantasy draft. The Houston Texans select the best receiver on the board. They get whoever's playing quarterback for them a weapon, and they draft Jackson Smith and Jigba out of the Ohio State University.
You screwed it up. Oh, my Lord, you screwed it up. They got no one to. Oh, no, I'll stop.
They should have got a quarterback at 2. They should figure that out. They should have figured it out.
If I was Houston, and I can't give it away now, they don't have any more picks in the first round. I would have took Will Anderson at 2 and Hendon Hooker at 12. I would have took Hendon Hooker there. I'd have reached for my quarterback of the future. But hey, that's just me. A receiver isn't good if he doesn't have a quarterback and throwing the football.
Figure it out.
Okay. Well, Shal, you're back on the clock.
Back on the clock with the Green Bay Packers. The pick. Starting over new. Got to get my man Jordan Love as many weapons as he can. So I'm going to start off here with the tight end position, and the Green Bay Packers are going to select Dalton Kincaid out of the University of Utah.
He looks like a Green Bay Packer.
He does.
Like it's perfect for them. I love that pick for them.
He's going to fit in.
Great pick.
He's going to fit in really well with the upper Midwest, like country cowboy type look. He'll be fine.
It's really funny, though, because in the New England Patriots, their situation, if I'm the New England Patriots general manager, I know exactly what I'm doing here. So with that being said, pick number 14 is in. With the 14th pick in the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast draft, the New England Patriots select Jordan Addison, wide receiver, USC, to get Mac Jones some weapons. What's poppin', JJL? The Ravens come up soon, right? I think they're coming up. Or they not have a first round pick.
No, they do. Like 22nd or something.
So who do you think the Ravens should take, Jordan? The board is open, but we're back to Trell, and he has the New York Football Jets.
I do have the Jets, and the pick is in. Jets have made all these moves this offseason. They got their guy at quarterback. They got all these weapons at receiver. Well, let's add in some protection for him. With the 15th pick, wire-to-wire draft, the New York Jets select Broderick Jones out of Georgia to add on to that offensive line for the Jets. Getting back Mekhi Becton this year, you got Broderick on the other side, or however you want to flip those guys. You get Aaron Rodgers some protection.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Number 16, the Washington Commanders. And the pick is in. With the 16th pick, the Washington Commanders select cornerback Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State.
No, it was so set up. If the Steelers are there at 17, that's a no-brainer home for Joey Porter Jr.
Can't let it get there, brother. I got to worry about my franchise, not the Steelers.
No Cinderella storybook endings here, buddy.
Nope.
You got to be kidding me. I was set for that one.
Come on.
Come on, man.
I'm hurt, bro. That was tough. All right. Here we go. The Pittsburgh Steelers pick is in. After their cornerback was stolen off the board, they decide to protect their young quarterback with Darnell White, offensive tackle from UT.
I like that pick for what it's worth. I think
I'm not upset to protect the quarterback. Joey Porter Jr. playing for Joey Porter Sr.'s team, it just seemed perfect. He's mocked there so many times. I love that for him. I hope that's the storybook ending for Joey Porter.
All right. Well, at 18, Detroit Lions, the pick is in. At number 18, the Detroit Lions are selecting Brian Branch to add on in that secondary with Devin Witherspoon, and Dan Campbell gets another weapon for that defense.
Did you forget that they just signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson?
Put him on the other side. You need two safeties.
They're the same safety. Brian Branch is like a Nichols type safety.
I'm comfortable putting Branch up top.
I mean, I think I'm more mad about this because I was gonna take Branch soon, but whatever. This is an easy one, Bill. Not a hard one for you.
Pick is definitely in. The Buccaneers are very happy right now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to draft the quarterback of their future at number 19. Take Hendon Hooker, University of Tennessee.
Okay, that's interesting. That's not where I was thinking you should go, but that's okay. The Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. Seattle Seahawks are very strong in the secondary, so a lot of the cornerbacks are around this part of the draft. They don't need. They're very strong at wide receiver, and they've already taken, with their 5th overall pick, they took Tyree Wilson, so they don't need edge rusher. So what does Seattle need at this point? They need an interior lineman, and so the pick is in, and I'm ready to make it. The Seattle Seahawks, the 20th pick, take Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle out of the University of Pitt. Little bit of a reach, but that's okay. I like the kid. He's good. Shalley's skipping to like page 3. Like, where's this guy at?
All right. So, the 21st pick got the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are on the clock, and the pick is in. With the 21st pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Brian Brees from the University of Clemson. I think getting an interior guy to go on that defensive line with Bosa and Mack on the outside, you're gonna have some problems on your hands there.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I think this will bolster up that D line.
Number 22, Baltimore Ravens. Pick is in, gentlemen.
Do-do-do.
With the number 2020, or with the 22 pick, Baltimore Ravens continue to add weapons to help lure Lamar Jackson back into town to sign his contract. They're going to select Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College University.
The Minnesota Vikings are sitting at 23, and they're elated. They are elated because they're going to be moving on from Dalvin Cook this offseason. And at 23, it's the perfect landing spot. The pick is in. After a draft night trade of Dalvin Cook to the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings select their running back of the future, Bijan Robinson.
That would be very interesting to see Dalvin on the move draft night.
Be wild.
Dalvin's going to Miami. You heard it here first. Actually, you probably heard it on ESPN first. I heard it there.
I can see Dalvin being on the move, going to Miami. They don't win a championship. They're making all the moves.
You got to be kidding me. I just realized I have pick 26.
All right, so 24 Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock, and the pick is in. So I'm going to go defense for the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are looking for a cornerback that can come in and be their number one guy. And so with the 24th pick, Wire2Wire mock draft, Jacksonville Jaguars select Cam Smith out of South Carolina.
I like it.
Wow.
So Shalley's got the Giants and I got the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
My pick's really easy if it's there, and I don't want to have to do it.
Well, I'm ready. Giants are on the clock. The pick is in.
Yeah, it should be there though, because
with the 25th pick, the New York Giants select Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback, Mississippi State.
This is a nightmare scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles and the rest of the division, because this pick I'm hoping isn't there, but this is the easiest pick of the first round. With the 26th pick of the Wire2Wire Sports Podcast Draft, the pick is in.
I already wrote it down.
Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame.
Oh, that'll suck.
They will 100% suck. That's the pick for them, right? Like that's where he goes.
Yeah, I wrote it down before you even said it. I mean, they lost Dalton Schultz. It just makes too much sense. And if he falls to them, that'll just suck for us.
All right, well, pick 27. Buffalo Bills are on the clock, and the pick is in. We're going to get Josh Allen another weapon here. Switch it up a little bit. For pick 27, Buffalo Bills select Quentin Johnston, receiver out of TCU.
Perfect pick for them there. If he's still there, that'll be no doubt about a pick.
Agreed.
They need a second receiver next to Diggs. I think it's super easy to make that pick for them, and I love that pick for them. I think that's a perfect pick.
Appreciate it.
I have an easy pick too.
Same.
Yeah. 20. You're picking 30, bro. You better be careful with the Eagles.
Yeah, because I mean, I know the person me and Gene want that to be, and he's still on the board. I'm up. Number 28, Cincinnati Bengals. Been excited for this one. Gonna be a little bit of a reach, but we are ready to pick. With the 28th pick, Cincinnati Bengals going to shore up their secondary a little bit. They're going to draft cornerback DJ Turner, University of Michigan.
You knew he was getting a Michigan guy in there.
My only logical spot to get him.
Fast guy. Teaming back up with Daxton. I like it.
Yep.
This is a tough one because it's not listed as an area of need for them, but I think it's going to be an area of need, and I think that this guy just can't be on the board for New Orleans here. So with the 29th pick, the pick is in. I don't know how Lucas Van Ness can get past New Orleans here. So I'll take Lucas Van Ness at number 29 for the New Orleans Saints.
I agree with that. I mean, if he falls there, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I don't know how you wouldn't take him.
No, I agreed.
All right,
All right, Eagles fans. The pick is in. I'm ready for all the slander. People are going to hate this pick, but that is 100% okay because we're making it and we believe in it. With the 30th pick in the Wire2Wire mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama.
Here we go.
Not happy with it.
Me either. Fire
It's okay.
Howie.
That's
Fire
okay.
Cottrell.
You guys will love it 2 years from now. When he has an Alvin Kamara-esque season for the Philadelphia Eagles, you guys will love the pick.
You
See,
taking
now-
pick 31, Shally, and we're done?
Yeah, I mean, I might switch it now. Because I figured the guy that we both wanted wasn't going to be on the board.
Well, reminder, you already took no, well, never mind, it's the Chiefs.
I'll go wishful thinking here and then just pray that we get him somewhere else. So I'll stick with my original pick for this.
Is
So
the pick in?
the pick is in. I don't think Patrick Mahomes can ever have enough weapons. And I think they're going to get him a guy that can run down the field really fast, and he probably can't out-throw. So with the 31st pick, Kansas City Chiefs select Jalen Wyatt, University of Tennessee.
Just repeat out loud. Who did you think the Eagles should took at 30?
What's his face from Alabama?
Oh, okay. I like Brian Branch a lot more than I like him.
Then who? That's what I'm talking about.
Brian Branch was already taken. He was taken 19.
Oh, well, I missed that.
That's okay. We got through that mock draft a lot quicker than we have previous years.
Correct.
We did.
Can we discuss it? Do you still have the results?
I absolutely do.
I want to discuss the results. What pick, in your opinion, because I love this debate and this fun stuff, what pick, in your opinion, we'll start with Kittrell and go down to me, do you think was the worst pick of the first round?
We'll start with me.
Yeah, like we're going to go top to bottom. Kittrell, you don't have to pick for you, just the worst pick you think that was made in the first round. What guy do you just don't agree with where he went?
I think if Quentin Johnston is still on the board, I think it'd be egregious for the Giants to pass him up and go corner.
Okay. So you think that Bill picking Emmanuel Forbes over Quentin Johnston was the worst pick of the first round?
Given what was left, yes.
Okay, that's fair. Hey, listen, it's not. Don't get hit. No slander. Jolly, worst pick of the first round.
I think I was most shocked that I mean, if you watch the replay when Cottrell said at 24 he was taking a corner, I thought for sure he was taking the guy who was going to take a 25 in Forbes. I definitely think Forbes, in my opinion, projects higher. So I was shocked they went Smith over Forbes there.
Okay. I think the worst pick is Will Levis at 4. And listen, I get it. There's nothing.
Facts.
I think CJ Stroud's there and Shane Steichen's system. I don't know why you wouldn't put him in that system. And I think that nothing against Will Levis. Will Levis is my 5th best quarterback. I mean, he's 2nd, 3rd round talent. I just think that you're basically saying the Jaguars have won that division for 3 straight years. I think Will Levis is the worst pick. All right, so now here I'm going to task you guys with another topic. What was the best pick made in the first round that was not made by you? Best pick in the first round that was not made by you. And don't go easy. Don't go like Bryce Young at 1 because like it's 1. Like go with something.
I'll go last because I'll go last because I got 2 that I like, and just in case you both don't say it.
Okay, Shally, best pick made in the first round. That wasn't made by you.
It wasn't made by me. I mean, it's hard not to say CJ at 8. I mean, like you said, I think Atlanta would sprint to the podium if he's there at 8. I would go with that.
Mine is really easy. As soon as you said it, I'm like, that makes way too much sense. I like Dalton Kincaid, 13 to Green Bay. I love that pick. I love the landing spot of that pick. I love what you're giving to a young quarterback to rebuild there. I love the Dalton Kincaid pick at 13.
So for me, the 2, I think the 2 for me that were the easiest were if CJ Stroud's there at 8, again, that's a home run pick for the Falcons. And then 2 picks later, Nolan Smith at 10. I think that's a great pick for the Eagles. A lot of people may think that that's reaching, but I think Nolan Smith is an incredible talent. And to put him on that Eagles defense and him learning behind those guys that are already there, I think that could be a championship winning move for the Eagles.
Okay. I look at this draft and the way we broke it down, and I don't see that many bad picks. I just think the Levis pick was the one that really threw me off. But what player in our draft do you think is the best fit for his new franchise? What player is the best fit for his new franchise? Like, just walks in the door and he's 100% ready.
I hate to say this.
Yep.
Michael.
The answer. What's the answer?
It's Michael Mayer in Dallas.
Yeah. You think about that real quick. You basically have a better version of Dalton Schultz. And Dak loves throwing the ball to the tight end.
Yep.
Okay, give me another one, Cottrell. Give me one you can't use Michael Mayer.
Hendon Hooker to Tampa Bay is real interesting. But I would go with because I'm going to also pick something that's not mine. I think Skoronski would go to Tennessee right away and be there day one, starting tackle, pick up right where Taylor Lewan left off, and no matter who he's protecting back there, whoever that guy is would be very comfortable.
Mine's easy. I think if this happened, that Buffalo would be elated. Quentin Johnson to play on the other side of Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs being that speed, great route running receiver. Quentin Johnson being that guy that can win a 50-50 ball. And then you move Gabe Davis into the slot. You want to talk about a career year for Josh Allen. Quentin Johnson at 27 is just, that's insanity.
I'll be honest too, man. I think if you're Detroit and your draft shakes out this way, you'd be ecstatic after night one.
Yeah, it's a good point. Listen, I think we do a better job than Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper's just falling off, man.
Just my opinion. But Detroit hitting Devin Witherspoon and then getting Brian Branch. I see the problem with that is I think if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think Cottrell will admit this. I think Cottrell forgot that CJ Gardner-Johnson just signed a nice contract to play there.
He signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah, but Brian Branch is the same. It's just a better version of CJ Gardner-Johnson. They're the same player. He's a safety / nickel that's versatile. The same player. Like, I don't think Detroit would take him 18.
You could
I don't think it's a good
100%
fit.
put both those guys on the field at the same time and be fine.
I guess you could, but who's your strong?
I mean, before CJ got to Philly and you guys used them how you did, CJ played a lot of years up top. Like the first couple years of his career, he played up top, like before he went down to the slot. So whoever you think is better there, I mean, you could bring in Brian Branch and be fine.
Strong safety?
No, I'm saying if you put CJ in your slot, you still need a free safety, is what I'm getting at.
So you're basically putting CJ in the slot and putting Brian Branch in the free safety role.
Or if you want to swap it because you think one is going to be better than
I think
the
CJ
other,
would
that's
see
fine.
the field better than Brian Branch's first year in the NFL. I just think that pick for Detroit could have been just different. I love Brian Branch. I want Brian Branch on the Eagles. Like I think that I would have debated on taking him at 10. Nolan Smith there, that's a great pick. But
if I'm being 1,000% honest, if I'm Detroit, I package up 18 and in my first next year, and I send it to Baltimore for Lamar and go from there. But that's just me.
Why? Jared Goff throws the ball better.
Oh boy.
Am I lying?
Yes.
I thought Detroit at 18. They're saying goodbye to DeAndre Swift. I thought Detroit at 18 would have been a good spot for Bijan.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think
I
it's
mean, what
very.
makes you think
I
they're
think
going to
it's
say
very.
goodbye though?
I think it's very interesting to see where Bijan ends up. I think there's so many teams that could possibly take him. I think if he falls to Cincinnati somehow, they could take him. I could see Cincinnati taking Jahmyr Gibbs there because I think they're going to move on from Joe Mixon, especially with the stuff going on in the offseason. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where he ends up going.
I love Godfrey's comments. Mel Kiper knows to take CJ at 4 over Levis at least.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if he does because Will Levis. Well, Mel Kiper, he loves him some Will Levis.
All righty, gentlemen. I think that's it for our Wire2Wire Sports Podcast draft. I love that mock draft. I had a lot of fun doing it, but it gives us a good amount of time to talk about the NBA playoffs, which is really heating up. I kind of want to go through it, but I want to start with one thing, and this is the one thing that really bothers me the most is I'm really frustrated that every single year the 76ers are in the playoffs, Joel Embiid has an injury. And I'm not saying that I love JoJo. I do. But it's at one point, can we just have one postseason where he's just 100% healthy? Where he's just there? Last year, it was, the knee, the meniscus that was falling off. The year before that, he got hit in the eye by Pascal Siakam and wearing the mask and missed the first 2 games. The year before that, it was the back, and the year before that, it was his tummy ached. He was eating too much Chick-fil-A and milkshakes, and he missed game 4 because he was pooping himself. I don't understand how I can't get a year of Joel Embiid fully healthy in the playoffs. And it hurts me. And they swept. They're the only team to pull the brooms out in the first round. I should be excited. Boston just lost a game. It's frustrating, to say the least.
Listen, if the man has a fatal flaw, it's his durability, and it's just I think you said it perfectly. It is what it is at this point. It's not a freak. It's not it's not a fluke thing like you said. Like just one playoff series. He got bad nuggets from somewhere. Like it's every season. It's something, and it's frustrating because I mean you watch him when he's healthy, and he's arguably the most dominant player in the league, and if you could, and I think it's even more crazy. You look at all the time off they get in between these games in the NBA playoffs and how spread out it is. It's a freaking joke, but that's a different conversation for a different day. And he just can't, and he just can't stay healthy. He does, and he's not wrong though. He's not.
It's so funny. Sometimes he moves, for the people listening on Spotify, sometimes he moves like a baby giraffe in a ball pit.
Does. He's constantly on the ground. I don't know how you're the biggest dude on the court and you're on the ground constantly. You can't think that falling and landing like that over and over and over the course of the year doesn't add up to some of this stuff. And it just sucks, man. It's frustrating is the right word. I mean, they're going to probably not have played in 10 plus days when the next series starts, and
he might not play game 1.
Yeah, he might not play game 1. It's nuts.
I think the part that kind of surprises me is that Doc has been so open about this injury. As soon as that series ended, Doc basically came out and said JoJo is going to be about 50% for our next series. Whoever I'm playing next series, I would presume it's going to be Boston. I don't see them blowing that lead against the Hawks. But whoever I'm playing, I wouldn't want them to know that information. Obviously, you have to put it on the reports that Joel is hurt, but saying that he's 50% and obviously that it's hampering him that much, I don't know if I would have wanted to put that out there. But I 100% agree with what you guys have said. It sucks when your best player consistently has to battle through injuries during the playoffs. But I will give the Sixers a ton of credit. Joel didn't play his best game in game 3. Tyrese Maxey held it down in the fourth quarter. Went to work, got them that win in Brooklyn, and they battled through Embiid not playing well, the Harden ejection, And they went out and did they were supposed to do. They got the sweep, and they were the only team to do so. So there's definitely good stuff to look at with that 76ers team. But you know, if Joel's not healthy, then that's a long uphill climb.
Cottrell, here's my problem. Is it weird that I'm like rooting for Boston to beat Atlanta because I know the 76ers are going to lose next round and I could stomach them losing to a better team like Boston and losing to Atlanta again? Like, it would frustrate me to no end. Like, I'm actually like, all right, I want Boston to win because I can stomach going home to Boston again. But if Atlanta gets to the second round and beats us again in the second round, I'm going to lose my crap. Like, that's how I feel.
I mean,
I want to make
I get that.
You said something about Tyrese Maxey. I want to ask you a question, Cottrell. I don't know if you heard this yet. Tyrese Maxey didn't hit double digits this year in 4 games. So 4 games all year, he didn't hit 10 points or more. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
3 of those games were versus one team.
Who was that team?
The Boston Celtics. They lock him up. And Marcus Smart puts the clamps on him, and it's Jaylen Brown's got too much length for him. They're quick enough to switch. He literally has not hit double digits in 4 games this year, and 3 of them were versus Boston. So I don't feel confident walking into a Boston series with a 50% Joel Embiid and a Tyrese Maxey that gets clamped up versus Boston every time he plays them. Just don't feel that way. You reminder the Sixers played Boston with a week and a half left in the season, and they beat them. Yeah, they beat them in Philadelphia without Jaylen Brown, without Robert Williams, and they literally needed everything. Joel Embiid to drop a 52-piece for him to win the game. It just doesn't instill confidence in me. I can't say, I want to move in. Bill, do you have any comments on the Sixers? Because that's like a lead into what I was just about to talk about.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's I'm tired of losing to Boston, but I mean, if we lose to Atlanta, then I mean, I think but on one hand though, this is the way I look at it. If we go lose to Boston with a 50%, JoJo, I still think Doc Rivers is here next year. Oh. And again, that's my point.
That might be the reason he said it.
I
know.
And it makes sense.
I know.
And I feel like I'd rather Atlanta knock us out and have to deal with that gut punch one more time. But I also know it would absolutely signify the end of Doc. So I'd rather just win. I mean, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen because JoJo's just not going to be healthy.
So I want to lead into the player that we lost out on. That Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy
Butler. Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. I didn't give Miami any chance in this series. And you know why I didn't give them any chance in this series?
Because they've sucked all season.
Their roster stinks. It's the worst roster in the playoffs. It's probably worse roster than Brooklyn. They have Jimmy Butler, no Tyler Hero. Their starting lineup is Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kevin Love, Gabe Vincent, and Max Struss. Are you kidding? Kyle Lowry's so bad he's coming off the bench now. He had 0 points last game.
Well, I mean, I think the other biggest factor there is that's also serious because of the health of Giannis as well. I mean, if he's 100%, I don't think we're where we are right now.
I think Milwaukee beats him by 50 next game.
Play tonight, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Milwaukee beats him by 50 tonight.
They might, and I'm assuming Giannis is going to play tonight. So, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy because Jimmy is doing what Jimmy always does in the playoffs and is a dog and is putting the team on his shoulders and saying, let's go. And if you're not, get the F off my court. Jimmy's doing Jimmy things, but I mean, he's not playing a 100%, Milwaukee Bucks team right now.
Next series I want to get into. I think, by the way, I just want to put this on record. I think Milwaukee comes back and still wins the series. in 7.
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting with Jimmy.
What I did want to put one thing out there. I have to commend just the Heat culture in general, because Duncan Robinson was a guy who was a starter for them last year, and he had, for lack of better terms, just been completely taken out of the rotation. And since the hero injury, he's come in and now he's starting for him, and he's been ready to rock and roll. So that's just a tribute to that Heat culture.
Cottrell, if I asked you what he shot from 3 this year, I don't think you'd get within 5%.
I mean,
what do you think he shot from 3 this year?
If I had to guess, 36%.
You're within 5%. 32%. The guy shot from 3 this year. You signed that guy to a $90 million extension, and he shot 32% from 3.
Yeah,
You're putting him in by pure necessity.
No, and I get that, but I'm saying he's been ready to roll though. Like, I mean, he shot the ball well in the playoffs. So I got it. I give him credit, because a lot of guys would be in that situation where, hey, I'm making $90 million. Now I'm coming off the bench. Now I'm not playing. Okay, now you want me to play, and they're not within the flow of the offense. Duncan knows his role. He's waiting to spot up and, go from there. So I got to give him credit for that, because there's a lot of pros that wouldn't be ready in that situation.
All right. Well, next series we got to get into is your Cavs, bro. They're getting dog walked again tonight.
Yep.
That's
Down
it, bro.
16.
The Nets, the Knicks, Josh Hart move to New York Knicks, adding him with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. That team has dogs, bro. They play hard. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. It's fun watching New York basketball in the playoffs. Watching Madison Square Garden, how loud it was the other night in Game 4 was incredible to watch. I think, even if the Heat win that series, selfishly, I would much rather watch Heat Knicks, Jimmy Butler in the Garden, that team of dogs in Miami having to play that team of dogs in New York. Like, that would be the funner series to watch. I think if Milwaukee plays New York, it might go 4. Or, I'm just being real. But if Miami plays New York, that is a 7-game war that reminds me of 1999 all over again. Bam versus Julius Randle. You got Josh Hart, Jimmy Butler, Jalen Brunson, Max Strus. I'm kidding. But, I feel like that series would be a lot of fun to watch if Miami can close out Milwaukee. I don't think they will, but the Knicks are fun to watch. I hate liking them.
The one thing about the Knicks that I give credit where credit is due. Tom Thibodeau in Game 4, he took Julius Randle off the court, and he was rolling with the guys who were putting them in the best position to win the game. Julius Randle's obviously your max guy, and he's going to be all NBA this year. But down the stretch, Julius Randle was not on the court for them, and so Tibbs trusting those guys. Hartenstein, he was playing great minutes late for him. Josh Hart is the piece. I said it on Twitter, and I fully stand behind it. In this series between the Cavs and the Knicks, one team made a move at the deadline to push forward for their championship aspirations. The other team didn't. And I 100% want the Cavs to go after Josh Hart. They ended up not doing that. And I know I said before the series that I thought the Cavs would win this series. And that was because I thought Julius Randle would make that much of a difference. And in this series, he hasn't played bad, but he hasn't been the difference in this series. New York, honestly, I hate saying it because it's so cliche. Every game that I've seen so far outside of Game 2 when Darius Garland went crazy, and he went crazy in Game 4 as well, but New York has just wanted it more. Like, you just see more grit, more determination. They've been going after every loose ball. They've been getting so many second chance opportunities.
You're right.
New York has just been playing so much harder than what this Cavaliers team has played in the playoffs so far. And it's fun to watch because it's New York, and it's nice to see them back, but it's disappointing because they're playing my team while they're doing it. So,
you know who's been the most disappointing player to watch on the Cavs?
Donovan Mitchell, and it hasn't been close.
Evan Mobley.
For me, Donovan Mitchell, and it hasn't been close.
Because you're expecting Donovan Mitchell to be the alpha that you paid for. And I understand that he's not been the alpha that you paid for. But Evan Mobley, one of the bright young stars, Rookie of the Year finalist. Did he finish second, right? To Scotty
Yeah.
Barnes.
Yep.
You expect him to take a jump this year. And he looked, he might have been runner up or third for Defensive Player of the Year. And he really had a good season as a whole. He's looked terrible this series. I think he's 1 for 4 tonight. How?
He has looked bad, but again, I know this is his first playoff experience, and I don't want to give him that out. But I'm saying, like, I wasn't he's the number 3 option on this Cavs team. Yeah. I wasn't expecting him to go out there and, drop 20 and 10 every night. So for me, I put more onus on Donovan because Donovan's been in these playoffs before. I've seen Donovan will Jazz teams who we thought were just good in the regular season to wins in the playoffs that I thought that they shouldn't necessarily be getting. So for me, it's been Donovan.
Okay. So let's move over to the West. Shally, any comments on that?
No, I mean, you guys hit it all. I mean, again, like New York is one of those blue blood NBA teams. I mean, if they're good and they're in the playoffs and they're on TV, it's better for the league. I agree with Cottrell. I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell, not really putting his stamp on any game in the series was very surprising to me. Julius Randle had a decent first 2 games, has kind of disappeared. His ankle's clearly not okay, and Cottrell brought that up as well. The end of game 4, they were just like, he's not what we need. We're gonna keep him off the court, and he didn't play in the fourth quarter, which is crazy. But yeah, they're a tough little team, man. They're gonna fight, they're gonna grind, they're gonna play New York basketball, and that's now they kind of have the city behind them again, and I'm assuming they're gonna win that series. It's gonna be fun to watch. Most likely watch Giannis and the Bucks go in there and battle with them. I think that's gonna be a good series. I think a couple days off will help Julius Randle as well. Assuming
you're just assuming the Bucks are coming back.
I mean, I agree with you. I think they're going to. I mean,
I get it. I just they're plus money to come back, so we can't assume that. By next week, we'll know. The Denver-Minnesota series is how 1-8 should look. And I want to kind of skim through that because we'll talk about Denver-Phoenix in a minute as we preview second-round matchups. I just want to ask a question. Should Kawhi Leonard retire?
No.
No, I mean, I don't think he should retire. But, I mean, that being said, I mean, I think again, it falls in line of the same criticism we just gave JoJo. Like, it's a legitimate injury and it's fine. It came out today he's got a torn meniscus. That's fine. It happens. But that being said, the criticism is just and warranted as well. This is a guy who plays 55 games a year and has gone through injury after injury the last couple of years. So you can't argue with the injury prone tag anymore. You can't. He is what he is.
Godfrey, the one-liners tonight is great. He's related to that Ohio State receiver. Second question with the Clippers, because I'll get into the Suns in a second. Was the Los Angeles Lakers the real problem for Russell Westbrook?
I don't want to say it was necessarily the Lakers. Because it hasn't just been the Lakers. It's been Russ's last 3 stops where he's kind of really just been run out of town. I think so. To answer your question, though, yes, the Lakers were a problem for Russ, but I think it's been people not knowing how to use Russ at this point in his career. I think what Ty Lue did and the role that he put Russ in on that Clippers team has been phenomenal. And I think right now you saw Russ struggle from the offensive end because he's not the guy that can get you 25, 30 every single night just because of his inefficiency. But you saw when Kawhi was there and Paul George was there, and he's only taking, 8 shots a game, 9 shots a game, and they're all just dives to the rim or him getting rebounds and putting it back up. That's when he was in his most effective role. So for the Clippers to know that, hey, teams are going to sag off you. And so when you're open and we're driving to the hole, or if we're shooting, I just need you to, crash the boards and go get a rebound and be successful that way. And then when we're on fast breaks, I want you to just be Russ. I think that put him in a situation where he was comfortable, and it was a great fit for him.
I think it's a great fit for Russell Westbrook to leave the Lakers. And I think it was a great fit for the Lakers to get rid of Russell Westbrook. Douglas Lewis Brooks said it perfectly. His game is not suited to be a third option. Russell Westbrook can be a Hall of Fame player on a non-playoff team. I don't think he'll ever win a championship because he's in a weird situation in which he can't. He's a good first option on a bad team, but he's a bad third option on a good team. Russell Westbrook looked great when Paul George went out. Looked even better when Kawhi Leonard went out. I got to give Ty Lue credit, though. Ty Lue is a great coach and knew how to use him. I feel bad for him, and I think Kawhi should retire. Maybe I'm of the minority here, but I think his injuries are just too much, and I think he's won a championship. I think it's it for him. I don't, what are you, just stealing money at this point? Like, if you can't play ever, it's been 3 years since he's played basketball, bro. He didn't play since he got hurt in the bubble, 2020. I need you to understand that. But
I say I don't think he should retire because I saw game 1 against that Phoenix Suns team, and he looked like a guy who could be the number 1 option on a team that's competing for a championship. And I get it, durability definitely matters, but what I saw out of him game 1 to go up against, Booker and KD and those guys, and to just put it to him like that, I was surprised to see that. And I said before that series, I thought it was going to be a sweep.
Lakers fans need to pay attention. I'm about to get to you. You guys are the last thing I'm going to talk about, but do not leave because I got something to say to you. Sacramento versus Golden State has been the best series in the first round. I feel terrible that De'Aaron Fox has got a broken index finger on his shooting hand.
It's over.
That sucks.
The series is over, in my opinion.
I mean, he's playing tonight, so I think you got to see how he plays first and see how it affects him.
You say it's over, but if Harrison Barnes makes that shot, Sacramento wins the series.
You find me one person outside of Harrison Barnes' family who thought that shot was going in when he shot it, you let me know. I had less faith in Harrison Barnes than anything I've ever seen in my life.
He was wide open. It was a perfect
pass. I knew he was going to miss it.
Yeah, that's fair. That series has been incredible. I still think Golden State wins, and we'll preview what they'll do in the next round. But here's where I got to get it. Shally, any comments on the Golden State Sacramento series?
No, it's been great. I mean, it's going to be the first team at home to blink. And again, I think it'll be very intriguing tonight to see how much that fractured fingertip affects, Fox. And if he could play normal, then, I think it's game on. I fully expect that to kind of go 7 now, assuming, again, that De'Aaron Fox is not, very, altered in what he can do tonight. I think if he can play anywhere near to his normal self, and I think Sacramento's fine. And then we just see what happens. Game 7 at home for Sacramento, that would be a very interesting atmosphere for me.
I have to start the Lakers Grizzlies talk. For one, I was 100% wrong. I had the Grizzlies in 5. I don't think it'll be Lakers in 5. It could be Lakers in 6. Could be Grizzlies in 7. But I was wrong about this series. I thought the Memphis Grizzlies would run them. I thought it'd be fast breaks, and and it has been for the most. LeBron has definitely slowed the game down, but anytime Memphis could run, they ran. The problem with Memphis is nobody could shoot on the damn team. I got to give the Lakers credit. Their interior defense, adding Jared Vanderbilt with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, has been the best in the league. Their interior defense. And with a team like Memphis, when they can't shoot, they shot terrible. Desmond Bane is the only guy on the team shooting, and Ja Morant for a spurt in the fourth quarter. That's it. Jaren Jackson's been disappointing. And don't get me started on Dylan Brooks. Look, I'll be very honest and direct with you. I loved what Dylan Brooks did after game 2. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. You're bringing rivalries back to basketball. I love that. There's no issue there. But don't you dare come out and drop an egg in game 3 and game 4, not make yourself available for media at all, and then say the media and the fans are casting me as the villain. Are you out of your freaking mind? you can't listen. If you want to be Draymond Green, be Draymond Green, and I'm cool with it. But don't call LeBron old. I'm not worried about him. He's this, he's that. Then get shit on, and then not make yourself available for media availability, and then say the media and the fans are making you into the villain. I mean, he's literally, there's never been a player I've ever seen in my entire life that has ran himself out of the league more than Dillon Brooks this series. He will not be a Memphis Grizzly next year. I will bet you anything you want. He's gone.
Correct.
He's gone. He's ran himself out of the NBA. I've never seen it before. He's a starter on a 2 seed. He's done. Look, when I watch this series, look, I'll be completely upfront here. I think I've said this all year. I think the Lakers get the benefit of a lot of calls. They're the Lakers. LeBron James is on that team. He's going to get the calls. I watched the game the other night in game 4. The officiating was terrible on both ends. It was awful. I was screaming about it in the chat, Sports Empire Network. The foul that was called on Austin Reeves' turnaround was pathetic. The charge that was called on Anthony Davis after he stalled the ball was terrible. The officiating in that game was terrible. And regardless of whether the Lakers get a little extra calls, this is not on the Lakers. This is not on the officials. This is on Memphis not shooting. They shot terrible. And I got to give some credit to that to Los Angeles Lakers defense. Memphis was up 97-90 with 4.5 minutes left. And you let D'Angelo Russell go splash, splash, splash without a response and go down 99-97. That's where they lost the game. That's where they lost the game. They were up 97-90, 4 and change left. D'Angelo Russell goes 3-3-3. Your thoughts on Memphis versus LA? You guys can add in on the Dillon Brooks talk, but this guy's a clown.
So, I mean, I agree 100%. You know, I got on Dillon Brooks earlier this year. I got on the Grizzlies. You know, they wanted to, they essentially want to be that Warriors team, but they don't want the backlash that comes with it. So, Dillon Brooks, you know, you can't be a villain and a victim at the same time. It just doesn't work like that. You know, if you want to be a villain, you got to fully embrace it and go full heel. But and I was fine with the comments, but at the same time, it was like, all right, well, you have to kind of go out and back this up. And I know you're not an offensive guy. You don't have to even go out there and drop 20 a game. But, you know, if you're going to talk and be that guy, just be that guy. You know, Pat Bev's made a living off of being that guy. He's going to talk no matter what, and he's going to stand by it, you know, no matter if he's getting torched or not. So if you want to be that guy, you just have to go after it. But this series as a whole, though, I 100% agree. I think the defensive effort of the Lakers has been great interior wise, and you said it perfectly. The Grizzlies can't shoot. The interesting part about this series is that the Lakers really haven't been shooting the ball well either. It's just that when it gets in the crunch time, they've been shooting the ball better than what the Grizzlies have. And I mean, that definitely matters. Lakers, like I said, Lakers haven't been shooting the ball well, but their role players have actually stepped up. You know, Rui Hachimura has had a pretty solid series. Austin Reeves has had, you know, some games where he's played really well. So
Jared Vanderbilt, role player, can't forget him.
Jared Vanderbilt, of course, defensively, he's been phenomenal.
Scored the first 10 points the other night.
That's the one thing that's kind of interesting about this Grizzlies team is that they have been without Ja for, you know, a good amount this season. You know, when he was gone with his personal issues, but now it seems like outside of Desmond Bane, no one is there to give him any support, and it's just crazy to see for a team that's been so balanced all season.
Can you explain to me why? Can you just? You're a basketball fan. You've watched the entire series. Can you explain to me why Dillon Brooks is still playing over Luke Kennard? Luke Kennard can shoot, and Dillon Brooks is 2 for 9 again tonight. He's got 5 points. Luke Kennard is 2 for 3 with 6 points. Like, just bench the guy. He is shooting you out of the series.
I 100% understand that, but I think a big part of it, what I would guess is that 1, rotations, 2, defensive responsibilities. Like, you don't want Dylan Brooks has been sticking LeBron, and obviously you figure it out if Brooks isn't out there, but Dylan Brooks has basically been sticking LeBron pretty much this entire series so far. Throwing Luke Kennard on him is not going to be your answer, and if you move pieces around, then it leaves you vulnerable at other spots. So I think they're just in a tough spot.
They're in a terrible spot. Dylan Brooks is now 2 for 10, 1 for 6 for 3. Xavier Tillman's 1 for 6. Like, Jaren Jackson's 0 for 3. That's still, and they're up 10 points. Bane and Ja Morant have done everything, and it's just embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing to me. You can't run your mouth that way and just show up like this. It's frustrating.
The
Gotta
other
give
thing,
the Lakers their roses, though, man. LeBron James being 38 years old, having a 20 and 20 night, hitting the game winner or the game tire in to go to overtime, and then the end one that basically put the dagger in them off Dylan Brooks in overtime, which, by the way, wasn't a foul. That's a joke, but whatever. I'm not going to get – LeBron's going to get the call. You have to understand he's going to get the call. Just stop that. Let's stop that. That wasn't a foul, though.
Lakers are only down by 1 right now.
So that's so bad.
Came out on a run in the third quarter. There's a little bit of a heartbeat left for Cleveland. They got it down to 8 with 9 to go. So
well, that was going to be the one thing that I was going to mention. Apparently, Julius Randle stepped on another foot in this game and twisted the same ankle and went to the locker room. And I don't think he's played since it happened. So even if it doesn't matter in this series and you move on, you don't have Julius Randle as well as you've been playing without him on the court. Him not being an option, it's going to change some things in the next round for you.
100%. Can you imagine the Knicks versus the Heat? The Heat, no Tyler Hero. The Knicks, no Julius Randle. And one of those
or a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yep.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me.
Yep.
You might, if the Bucks win this series, come back and win the series versus the Heat, you might as well just tell New York to stay home. Don't play.
Yeah, you probably see like Giannis. He'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna take the first 2 games off. Rest my back a little bit. Get myself together.
Boy, when you watch this Lakers Grizzlies series, it's almost like you're watching a guy dig his own grave in Dylan Brooks. And I want to end the Dylan Brooks conversation that way because he's going to be my, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to get further into it. But how does he have the gall to say the media and the fans are painting him out to be the villain? Like, Joey, help me understand.
I mean, it's kind of like what you said. It's him not, wanting to be Draymond Green, but not go full Draymond Green. And like you said, if you want to do it, that's fine. If you want to be that guy and you go out and back it up and talk and but also take your medicine when stuff goes wrong. Draymond doesn't shy away from anything. We've all seen the press conferences where Draymond Green is funny and, talks about things that went well and sits up there and he goes, yeah, I suck tonight, or we suck tonight, or we did this. You have to do both. That is, if you want to be, like Cottrell said, if you want to be the number one heel, you got to take it. You got to take your medicine both ways. And if you're not willing to do that, then it just looks like you played yourself. You look like a punk.
Those stunner shades and that huge chain, talking about how old LeBron is, like, you look like just such an ass. He just does. And look, man, I love the rivalry. I stuck up for Memphis all year. I stuck up for him when Control hated him because Dylan Brooks did a cheap shot to Donovan Mitchell. I stuck up for him all year.
I think the thing with Memphis was, and I go back to, we talked about this last year, after they got eliminated, that how they were going to be better this year and how they were kind of like that young, very tight-knit group. And they, they kind of got some confidence and, they were on that borderline of being confident, but, not too cocky. And they just went full on. They're too cocky, like now. And like you said, like in general, I think a lot of people want to play Memphis and beat them. And I don't think they handle having the bullseye on their back real well. I don't think they're mature enough to do it as a team. And I think they went too far to the cocky side. And now you're seeing the effects of it.
What would it take Memphis? And I don't want to I'm done. We'll talk about the offseason later. But I just want to know what would it take Memphis in the offseason to bring in a guy like Paul George and get him over there because I think he'd be the perfect fit. Like but you'd have to be able to keep Bane and Jackson, and you can't.
I was going to say, I don't think that there's a scenario where that'll work just because I don't think Memphis has the assets to do so.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. I want to talk about Phoenix versus Denver before we wrap up. We already know that's a second round matchup. I want to be clear when I say this. Phoenix was my pick to win the NBA championship, but watching them versus the Clippers, they are not ready. They are not there. And I'm telling you right now, that Denver team could definitely beat them. They played a Paul George less, a Kawhi Leonard less Clippers team, and every one of those games was down to the wire. Devin Booker needed basically a 50-piece last night to hold off the Clippers at home in Phoenix.
Yep.
Kevin Durant's played decent, but doesn't look like they're meshing well. I got to give Chris Paul's credit. He has not really slowed down. He's done exactly what he needs to do and leading the offense. You know who's really gotten the short end of the stick in this last series? And I didn't expect it because of the Clippers. It was DeAndre Ayton. He's looked awful.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of it last night. And the first 3 shots he took, he hit the rim once. It's.
I thought he was playing. Did you ever see what's the Along Came Polly when the guy's shooting raindrops?
Yeah.
Like that's the way he looked last night. Just throwing shit up.
I mean, listen. I mean, it's. I don't want to say he's the odd man out, but he kind of is. Like, I mean, you know, Chris Paul can do what Chris Paul wants when he wants to. You know, and you know Booker and Durant are going to get their fair share. So I mean, he's kind of the scrap guy. You know, there's parts of games I've watched where he doesn't look, you know, extremely motivated or like he cares. I mean, and you have to remember, like, there was, I mean, you remember back last year, like, we didn't think there was any shot he was going back to Phoenix.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way that all went
I
down,
cannot believe Phoenix matched that contract.
I mean, it's easy to say that in hindsight now because they have Durant, but at the time it was like, all right, well, we're really going to go into next year with just Chris Paul and Booker. Like, is that what we're doing? You know what I mean? So it's, you know, I mean, I get it. You know, you know, you have to remember too, they've played what, like 10 games together with that 4 on the court. I mean, it's going to take time.
Up to 4 and 5 in the playoffs. But
yeah. So it's, you know, it takes time. And, you know, they were talking about last night how like KD's like such like a plug and play guy, and you know, on the surface that's true, but you know, at the same time with other things going on, it takes time to mesh. And Phoenix is a little bit vulnerable. Like it's still, they gave away their, you know, almost their entire bench to get them. So I mean, it's, you know, like you said,
I just don't think they can survive with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker playing 40 minutes a night every night for an entire playoff run. And like they asked Kevin Durant about it the other night, and he goes, I didn't play 48. I'll play 48. Like, yeah, Kev, you haven't been on the court much the last 3 years. I don't know if anyone told you this, but like your health is not like a statue. It's not like his health is
just this guaranteed thing.
Well,
No, I mean, I definitely 100% agree with that. I think the one thing though with Ayton and a big reason why I haven't been as critical on him this series is that the Clippers had to find a way to combat what Phoenix did. And so a lot of the times they were playing small ball. And you would think like the easy thing is that the big would just be this dominant being and grab all these boards and you know, score easy points because everybody's bigger than them.
Using him last night?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And this isn't me giving him an out necessarily, because at times he's definitely played bad. But I'm just saying it's hard to get into a rhythm when they're throwing out things that you weren't expecting, because you were expecting Kawhi to be out there on the court. You're expecting Zubac to be out there in the game to go a certain way, and that doesn't happen. And then the other thing, too, is that Devin Booker has been the best player in the playoffs so far. Devin Booker has played absolutely incredible. So
Jimmy Butler.
I disagree. I think Devin Booker's consistency so far, you see these games 45, 47, 38, like it's just consistent with him.
I just meant Jimmy Butler beating Milwaukee.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's been like the most surprising, you know, for him to be able to do that. Yes, but I think player performance wise, I take Devin Booker over everybody. But I don't think that what the Phoenix is doing is sustainable. And you saw the Clippers gave them fits when they forced a double on Kevin Durant or forced a double on Devin Booker, and they forced Phoenix to shoot perimeter jump shots, not with guys named Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and they struggled. You're going to have to really rely on anybody
on that. I don't think there's anybody on that Denver team that can really double, no like elite defender on the top of the key that can double Booker and Durant. I think that they'll get through Denver, but I think it's going to be a very, very tight series. I'm going to give my prediction. I'll go Phoenix in 6.
I'm going to go Phoenix in 7.
I'm doing the same.
So we're all got Phoenix. Okay.
But I do disagree, though, with that. I mean, KCP, I think, is a good perimeter defender. Michael Porter Jr., not necessarily a great defender, but he has the length to do what.
Yeah, but Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be sticking Booker. He can't stick up with him.
No, won't stick Booker. I mean, KD.
Probably not even Durant. Durant will abuse him.
Got to figure out what you want to do, though.
You're right. All right, let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Me and Control might have the same one.
We do, but I'm going to let you have it. I know you said you got more on Dillon Brooks, so
all three of us were going to do the same one.
No way. Are you Dillon Brooks too?
I was. That's why it's funny. So
I say,
any chance I get to take a dig at the Grizzlies.
I say we all do it.
I mean, I literally had 4 things like written underneath that I wanted to touch on, and you literally almost said all of them word for word when we were doing the breakdown. So I'm out.
I mean, only thing that I'll say, and I guess I'll do a little bit of it. Only thing that I got, and I said this when we just talked about it, but you 100% cannot be a villain and a victim at the same time. For Dillon Brooks, if you want to embrace this character and do all that, that's 100% fine. I'm fine with the way that you're doing it. I personally don't think it was a smart thing to do because this is a contract year for you. Not only are you playing your way out of money with the Memphis Grizzlies, I think there could be people in that locker room saying, oh, not necessarily that he poked the bear, because I don't think LeBron has done anything spectacular individually or anything like that. But now they're down 3-1 and it's like, oh, you were talking all this. Now we have to answer for you because you don't want to show up at the podium and things like that. So I think that could be looked at as being a bad teammate. And so now people in that locker room could be potentially giving him the side eye. So doing all that, you got to get your money this upcoming season. You're an unrestricted free agent. I just don't think that was a smart move if you and your team weren't going to be able to back it up. So Dillon Brooks this week for me.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. Oh, I'll get into it in a minute. So are you giving one?
No, I mean that's what I was going to do. So I mean,
all right, I'll finish it off then, and then we'll end the show. But I don't think he's not just playing himself out of a contract. I think he's playing himself out of the league. I'm not being smart when I say this. I want you to tell me a team that signs him and what they sign him for. Memphis's GM's not an idiot. No one's going to invest money in this man. Why would you invest? All right, so if you're a young team, why do you want the problem? If you're a contending team, why do you want the problem? You can't go out. It's the truth. He's a moderate player at best. He's 3 for 13 tonight. You can't call out the second greatest player of all time and then show up 3 for 13. You can't do it. You cannot do it. If you're going, and yes, Kyle, Brooks will be somewhere next season. Okay, I might believe you, but who's to say he signs a contract for somebody next? Do you know what it reminds me of more than anything? And it's not like the trash talk reminds me of it, but Dennis Schroeder turned down a very big contract to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers, had a really bad offseason, signed a really terrible deal with the Boston Celtics, was buried on the bench, and you didn't hear about Dennis Schroeder for a year and a half before he's back in LA playing now. Dillon Brooks 6 months ago would have got almost a not a max, but he would have got a very nice. He would have
Duncan Robinson-esque contract.
That's exactly what I was about. He would have got Duncan Robinson-esque contract. He would have got $90 million. Who signs him for more than 2 years? He'll sign 2 years, $9 million. I'm telling you right now. 2 years, $9 million. And teams aren't going to sign him for 1 year. They're like, nope, sorry. Again, find a deal, Dylan. Who signs him? And it's not just that. It's the fact that you can't look. If you want to talk it, back it up. The part that bothers me the most is him not making himself available for media availability after a loss. When you're in the media after a win, wearing stunner shades, a huge chain, talking about LeBron is old and I don't respect that man until he puts 40 on me and this, and that, and then disappear in Los Angeles and then don't make yourself available for media availability. So now Ja's got to answer to that. Ja's playing with every injury known to man, playing his ass off. Desmond Bane, who's like the quietest, most relaxed player in the league, has to answer for Dylan Brooks. That's terrible. Dylan Brooks, unless something drastic happens in which they win this game and he goes to LA and they salvage the series, has 100% cost himself a contract, and I really think he's cost himself a place in the league. He'll be a rotational bench player next year somewhere, 2 years, $9 million, and he'll be in the G League or in the Chinese League with Dwight Howard sooner rather than later. So for that, this week, Dylan Brooks.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
You know, my you got to be kidding me was before that, was before the Dylan Brooks situation, was DeMarcus Cousins. Where does he get off with the gall to say he's the third best center in the NBA right now? Did you guys hear that comment?
I didn't see him say that. Is that during the same interview that he was talking about Jokic?
Yes. He said he's the third best center in the NBA right now.
Behind who?
Joel
Jokic
and Joker.
So,
Look,
I mean,
DeMarcus Cousins in his prime would be the third best center in the league right now.
Prime Boogie was the man.
How do you say that though? I just don't. And the worst part of the DeMarcus Cousins thing is the league has completely went away from centers like him.
Moved on, yeah.
I felt bad for Boogie and his injuries. I really liked watching him play in Sacramento. I liked watching him play even more the little you got to see him play with AD in New Orleans. I actually thought he was the better of the two players when they played together. But now
for a stretch.
He was. But now it's just the guy's delusional. Follow Dwight Howard. Go over and make your money in the Chinese basketball league. I don't mean it's not a joke. That's not a slight. Like I don't mean that to be weird. But he'll make good money over there and be the second best player in the world.
Marbury's been over there for a decade now making money. I think he owns a team now or something.
The one thing that I will say about Dylan Brooks, and this is just like I'll wrap up with it. I think Dylan Brooks can be valuable for a team. I don't want him in Cleveland, but I think he could be valuable for a team like the Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers, they don't have any guys that I would go to war with. And I'm not saying Dylan Brooks is one of those guys, but if he wants to keep up that moniker of being that guy that's going to talk and, go at other teams' best players and things like that, I think the Cavs and other teams in the Cavs situation could benefit from someone like that. Obviously, he would have to change the way that he's going about it, but I think they could benefit from having a guy like that.
And I would agree with you until he played victim.
Facts. And that's exactly why I wouldn't want him on our team. But I'm just saying, I think that'd be the role for him.
Like, you know what you look at when you see Dylan Brooks? You look at a guy that could be Bobby Portis. He could be that tough guy that even PJ Tucker, you could see that. The guy's not a bad defender. But the difference between PJ Tucker and Bobby Portis, they understand, and Draymond Green, they understand their roles with their teams, and they're willing to do anything. And you know what the reverse of it, you got to be kidding me, is? If you heard Draymond Green after he came off the bench in Game 4,
yep,
that's exactly what I want in a teammate. That's the reverse of you got to be kidding me.
I mean, you look at all the shenanigans they've gone through with him, and they are all consistent with they don't want to go to war with anybody but him, and how much of a leader he is in the locker room, and how much of a great teammate he is, even when he gets out of hand a little bit, like sometimes. But again, that's being a leader. That's having accountability, and that's what's facing the media is after you lose 2 games in a row. I mean, he's just not that. I mean, you shot your shot. You look like an idiot now. You look like a punk.
Brooks has to go somewhere with a legit veteran presence. He got away with this because Memphis is young. That's fair.
It's part of it.
And then the last comment, if he comes to the Sixers or the Cavs, Cottrell or Gene have to buy a Brooks jersey. I'll sign up for that. If he does that, I'll do it just for fun. Maurice Powell, he's open for a reason.
100%.
All right, so thank you for tuning in. I had a really good time this show. The draft was great. The conversation around listen, guys, if you guys are not doing anything tomorrow night, Bill, Cottrell, anybody listening, Sports Empire Network is doing a live stream watch party for the draft. Hop on, talk anytime. You can come on whenever you want, talk for your team, then hop off. It doesn't matter. Just come on. It'll be a watch party. Myself, Kyle Edwards, and Godfrey will be hosting it. But anybody's welcome to hop on. We'll have a great time. We're going to watch the draft. We're going to talk a lot of stuff. It's being heavily advertised. It should be a great stream. So just come on board. We'll have a great time. Any final comments, Cottrell?
I do have one. So this is going to be the last show before Audia's birthday. So definitely have to give her a shout out. She's 20. I'll let her say how old she is, if she wants that out there. But happy birthday, and appreciate all the support with everything.
Well, I won't put her name out there now, but she's a fellow Taurus with somebody that I'm dating. Her birthday is today. So I'd like to really shout her out. She's been super, super, nice way to put it, been very, very understanding of the fact that we have the NFL draft tomorrow in the live stream. So I appreciate that. And happy birthday to her. She knows, and she's probably listening. So happy birthday. And then Shelly, any final happy birthday, Audia, too. Audia, I'm a huge fan of yours, even if you hate me, and that's okay. Mrs. LPGA. Shelly, any final comments? Do you want to wish a special Taurus a birthday too?
I don't have any special Tauruses.
Taurus season is upon us.
Taurus season. I will wish a happy birthday to Audia Simpson though, for sure. And then looking forward to next week. It's the start of pony season, gentlemen. So
yes, it is. I've already been looking. You know what? I was actually
my picks are already done.
Now that we're here, I was looking at the cost of going to the Kentucky Derby.
Bro, I'm telling you this. I really hope like 1 week where we have like a slower week. I really think we should do something like top 10 bucket sporting list events that we want to go to. I've been to the Derby, and I'm telling you, if you and Audia went, you would have an absolute blast. It is an incredible experience. Churchill Downs is so much fun.
We can easily do that. I mean, 2 weeks from now, we're going to have nothing but baseball and NBA playoffs.
I'm down. We should do
it. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
I'm done. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 133. Make sure you download us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And this is Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, signing out.